Welcome to episode 146 of the Various and Sundry podcast. I am your host, Matt Harmon, joined live from the Vault Studio on the beautiful campus of Grace College and Theological Seminary by my good friend, my colleague, my co-host, and the man who is headed to Washington, D.C. shortly, John Scott Sloat.
Temporarily, not permanently.
You're not headed to the swamp permanently.
Yeah, I can't handle the muck.
Yeah.
I just like to dip a toe.
Yeah.
So
how many times have you been to D.C. in your life?
just one other time.
Really?
Yeah, and it was my so I have an aunt and uncle that live in Baltimore.
Yeah.
And so like we shot down there, I think on the train, and like looked at everything from a distance, like, oh, there's that. Oh, there, but never went in anything.
Yeah.
And so like I've never been to the Lincoln Memorial, never been
you're missing out, man.
to really anything in Washington, D.C., but I've been like there once.
Okay.
So
It's a fun city. I'd never want to live there, but it's great to visit.
and I will on this visit, right, I will start my day in like Pennsylvania. I have a coffee meeting on Capitol Hill, and then I shoot out to like Virginia for dinner. So
Some sort of high-powered lobbying effort.
That's right,
Connecting with legislators.
yeah, well, you know me, I lobby for lots of things.
Yes. Yes, indeed. All right. So that is why we're actually recording on a Friday when this episode will drop the following Tuesday. So that will alter some of our programming here in a moment. But before we dive into that, we want to remind you that you can connect with us on Twitter at VNSPod. You can email the show, various and sundry podcast @gmail.com. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube. And we would love for you to leave a 5-star rating and a review on whatever platform you access the show. All right, so since we are recording so far in advance of the show dropping, our sports segment is going to look a little bit different today because we won't have the
We can't recap the weekend.
We can't recap the weekend because it hasn't happened yet when we're recording here. But I did think this would be an opportunity, since Ohio State actually has a bye this weekend anyway, that I thought one thing I would do is just we're sort of at the midway point of Ohio State's season. They're 6-0. And I would say overall they have performed in some ways according to expectations and in some ways exceeding expectations.
So no underperforming from the Buckeyes, really?
The only place where they have underperformed is at cornerback. Their two cornerbacks have not played up to the standard they need to.
Up to the standard they need to, or to Ohio State standard, because they generally have pretty good cornerbacks.
They have good talent, but the defense has been turned around almost completely. I like how the defense is playing, and the weakness is that they have good corners, but it seems like they're consistently in place to make a play, but don't make the play. Like receivers are catching too many balls where like the guy's right there. So it's not like guys are just running free where the corners are getting beat. It's they're right there, but they're not turning to the ball quick enough or reacting to the ball right. So, but overall, I'm very encouraged, and I think the most encouraging sign, besides the defense overall, is the fact that on the offense, the offensive line is performing much better than last year. Ohio State has been able to run the ball far more consistently than they could last year, and they are being more creative in the ways that they're doing it. Last year they got way too predictable. You get to 3rd and 1 or 3rd and 2, and you knew exactly what play they were running, and so teams just loaded up and often stopped. A lot more creativity, and the fact that going into the season, their best wide receiver was Jackson Smith-Njigba, widely regarded as probably the best wide receiver in college football. He hurt his hamstring in the first quarter of the first game, has barely played since, and Ohio State has not missed a beat. They've had other receivers step up. Marvin Harrison Jr. is a freak show. He is just unbelievable. He has started 7 games in his Ohio State career. So Rose Bowl last year, 6 this year. in 3 of those games that he started, he has caught 3 touchdown passes. So in 3 of the 7 games he started in his college career, he's caught 3 touchdown passes.
That's
pretty good.
Yeah,
that's
not
pretty
bad.
good. He's going to be a first-round draft pick in the 2024 draft.
I know this isn't necessarily the halfway point of the season.
For the regular season.
For the regular season is. What games do you have circled on the back half of the calendar that you're sort of looking out for?
Well, the schedule certainly gets more difficult. There's no doubt about that. They have at Penn State on October 29th.
Okay.
That's a tough venue to play
Top
in.
15 team? Where's Penn State at?
Right now, I think they're 10th.
Okay.
But when this episode drops, they will have just played Michigan. So if they beat Michigan, they'll be a top 5 team probably.
Yeah.
If not, they'll still be 15th, somewhere in there. And then the other obvious difficult game is the season finale against the team up north on November 26th. There's a sneaky, scary game in there. They play at Maryland on November 19th.
Okay.
And Maryland can score. That's the kind of team that scares a team like Ohio State, I think. Like if there's a team that can score a lot of points, that's where the defense has to earn its stripes so that you don't end up having to win a game 52-49 kind of thing. And anything can happen in those shootouts.
Yeah.
So I'm encouraged. I think they're right where they need to be right now. I think they're positioned well nationally. So I'm cautiously optimistic that this team will get into the playoff and has at least a shot.
Okay.
So
can I transition?
yeah, absolutely.
Can we talk about how terrible Thursday Night Football has been the past couple of weeks?
Yes, it's been so bad.
I mean, it was on last night.
Did you watch?
I followed it on my phone because 9:30 comes very quickly. But I followed it on my phone. It was not good. Now, a touchdown was scored.
Yes.
Which
on a beautiful touchdown pass by Justin Fields, like a 40-yard touchdown pass. Just dropped it in the basket.
However, that's the first touchdown scored in 2 weeks.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Like the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. On Thursday Night Football, yeah.
It's been bad. I wonder if Amazon is regretting paying for this the last 2 weeks with the Washington Commanders. There we go.
Yeah, they're not the Redskins anymore.
And the Bears.
Yeah.
That was a bad matchup preseason.
Yeah. Some of the games coming up are better matchups in terms of the quality of the team.
What was the game last week?
Colts
Denver?
and Broncos, yes.
Oh, man, what a bad game.
Which went into overtime. What was the final? Like 12-9? Was that the final score?
12-9. It was a bunch of field goals.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I watched a good chunk of this game. And the Bears had first and got it down to the 5-yard line of Washington 3 times.
And couldn't punch it in.
They scored 0 points. 0. So twice they went for it on 4th down, I think, and didn't get it. And then no. Once they got intercepted off of a tipped pass, once they went for it on 4th and goal from inside the 1, couldn't get it. And then at the end of the game, they had the ball at the 5-yard line, 1st and goal, with 52 seconds left, down 12-7, and could not punch it in. And on 4th down, there was a drop pass that would have won the game. Now, it wasn't for an NFL receiver, it should have been a relatively easy catch. Just drop the ball.
Seems like there's a lot of drops this year.
Yeah. So, Thursday Night Football has been atrocious.
But next week gets better. Saints, Cardinals.
Yeah.
Should be a better game. Although the Saints feel like they're all over the map.
Yes.
Cardinals kind of feel that way too.
Yeah. But here, I think we can talk about matchups, but part of the issue, I think, is there's just not enough turnaround. You play Sunday, right?
Yeah.
Then on Monday's got to be a day off. You got to give your body some kind of rest.
Yeah. You got to be doing film or something.
Maybe, yeah. Tuesday, it's not like you're going to – with a Thursday game, you're not going to go out there and go full pads and go,
no
contact. You walk through drills, that sort of stuff. Well, Wednesday you're traveling probably, so walk through, and then Thursday, day of the game, morning walkthrough kind of stuff. But that's just not enough time, I don't think, for professional athletes playing one of the most physical sports in existence to recuperate. And so I think that's partly reflected in the quality of play. I mean, the teams that we've, again,
the Bears Commanders are not
good teams, but they're not going to change it. Like there's just too much money. There's just too much money to be made.
Particularly after the amount of money Amazon spent on that. I mean, they took for years it was known NBC has the best producer for Sunday Night Football. Like they do the best job of producing the game. It's beautifully shot. Amazon hired him away, and now he produces Thursday Night Football games for Amazon. Yeah, and I think he does.
And they went out and got Al Michaels.
Yeah, and I think it's a beautifully shot game.
Mm-hmm.
However, when you put it doesn't matter how good the cameras are.
It's hard to overcome bad product on the field.
Yeah.
We are kind of entering the sweet spot of sports when you think about it. NFL season in full swing, college football.
Yep.
Baseball playoffs, even though your beloved Mets are no longer in it. Are you following them at all?
I'm keeping tabs. Yeah.
Okay. I will occasionally drop into an inning or two of playoff baseball, but
it's really intense.
It is, and I love the atmosphere.
Really intense.
I love the atmosphere. And the NBA season's about to start. It feels like they start the NBA season earlier and earlier every year.
Yeah, it feels like it's a moving target year to year ever since COVID. Like it felt like there was a standard before COVID, and now
maybe I'm just wrong, but my perception was that when I was in college, November was the start of the NBA season.
Mm-hmm.
And now here we are. I think the NBA season starts October 19th. The day after this episode drops, I think.
Oh, wow.
I think it's that soon.
Yeah, I need to read up on the Knicks.
Yeah. No idea what's going on with them.
I'm pretty sure they're still playing at Madison Square Garden. I'm pretty sure they're still wearing blue and orange.
Yeah.
I'm still pretty sure they're going to be pretty rough.
I mean, the NBA season is so long, you'll have plenty of time to catch up.
Yeah.
All right. Are we ready to move on?
One other note on football.
Yeah.
The Jets-Packers game is the Fox Game of the Week, and so it's getting a broader listening audience or a broader watching audience. So it will be on television in our neck of the woods, and it will be on television where I am traveling. So I will get to watch the game for a third straight week. I'm very excited.
Wow.
Very excited.
Yeah. I'm happy for you. I hope they throw the ball to Garrett Wilson 30 times. I know it won't happen. I'd take them throwing it to him 8 or 10 times at this point. All right. Now we need to move on. We are doing a topic today that's a little bit different from our standard fare. A little more lighthearted. Definitely not serious at all.
Although it was probably the most thinking I had to do about an episode. I really struggled to come up with a list.
Okay, so what we're doing here is fictional characters we'd like to hang out with.
Yeah, and I think I have a good list. I think I have a decent list.
Okay, now I think we should clarify, at least as I was putting the list together, there's a difference between this list and saying our favorite fictional characters.
Yes.
Because you might have favorite fictional characters. You're like, well, I wouldn't want to hang out with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So just to be clear, we're not saying these are our favorite fictional characters, but fictional characters we'd enjoy hanging out with. And this is going to cover the gamut from movies, television, and literature.
Yep.
So
absolutely. I have one movie, 3 TV, and 1 book.
Okay. Well, I covered the gamut. You covered the gamut.
You got a couple of books, then you have 3 TV?
2 books and 2 books, 2 TV shows, and a movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, sweet.
3 TV shows. My bad. 3 TV shows, a book.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking that was a TV show, but I wasn't totally sure.
The one character, the books have been made into movies. So
okay.
It kind of crosses there. Okay.
Oh, true.
So, let's go back and forth. You want to start or you want me to start?
I can start.
Okay.
My first one, I imagine you haven't heard of.
Now, these aren't necessarily ranked in order either.
No. I'm just going with the first one I listed there. So The Count from the book A Gentleman in Moscow.
Yeah, I don't think I'm familiar with that.
Okay, so I'm in the middle of reading this book, and it takes place in Russia in the middle of the Russian Revolution. And so the Count is sort of this old world Russian elite, and he's living in Paris doing all these things. The revolution's taking place. He rushes back to Moscow, I think to take care of a loved one, and is arrested, put on trial, and it sort of has this like, jaunty winning sort of personality on the stand. And he had written this poem, and so everybody loved this poem, and so they decide, well, we can't kill this guy. There'd be riots in the streets. So they say, you are going to be confined to the hotel down the street for the remainder of your life. And so the whole book takes place in this hotel. Now it has a couple of restaurants, a coffee shop.
So he's hardly suffering hardship in the
right.
Yeah.
But he's sort of like this sort of old world gentleman where he's not negative about things. He goes through daily rituals. He likes his food a certain way, and he's like engaging with these. He invites people to the hotel to have conversations. He meets a young woman or a child in the hotel who he goes on adventures with, and all these things. I would just love to be in the hotel with him for a day. He has some great one-liners in the book. One of my favorites is he gets moved up to the attic of this hotel, and he has these guys carrying his desk up, and it's this giant desk. And these young men are complaining about this giant desk that they have to carry up there. And they look at him like, Count, why do you have such a giant desk? This is miserable. And he goes, a king fortifies himself with a castle, a gentleman with a desk.
I like that.
And so, I've just really enjoyed the book. And
that's placard worthy.
That line,
Sign
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, when I read that line initially, I put down the book. I was like, I got to stop reading. I'm upset about that line. It was just too good. But yeah, it's been a wonderful read. I'm about 80, 100 pages into it.
All right. And so it sounds like what's attractive about the idea of hanging out with this guy is he's cultured.
Oh, yeah.
He's witty. Okay.
He's in Russia in the Russian Revolution. I mean, that sounds fascinating.
Mother Russia.
He goes.
That is my white whale, to use a literary reference there.
Well, I think you'd probably enjoy the book then because but he's also sort of this kind of aloof character that sort of doesn't realize what's going on around him or doesn't care.
Okay.
So like in one scene, there's this sort of like gathering of angry Bolsheviks in the lobby of the hotel, and he's like in the balcony, sort of looking down and listening in, and all these things. It's very fascinating.
Okay, I like that. I'll have to check that book out. Is that on Scribd? Do you know?
No, it's not.
Bummer.
I can lend you my paper copy if you'd like. All right, who's your first? I took way too much time.
No, that's good. That's good. I think it needed explanation because it's not something that I think a lot of people would. If you just go on The Count from
That's true.
A Gentleman in Moscow, people are like,
That's
I don't
true.
know who that is. I'm going to go with someone that most people know who it is. Ron Swanson.
Yeah. When I saw Ron Swanson on your list, I was like, oh, shoot, I wish I had picked Ron Swanson.
Now, I debated because within Parks and Rec, I debated because in some ways I think Ron could be a fun hang if you are into the things he's into, obviously.
Yeah.
And he's got a pretty narrow range, but he's sort of your he's gruff, but he's got that like if you're one of his people, he's loyal to you.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a guy that would know how to fix just about anything.
Yeah.
So he'd be a total he'd be the guy you'd love to have
Except
on
your
call.
computer.
Yeah. Except for technology stuff. Now I did debate going a different direction from Parks and Rec. I debated putting April down there.
Oh, April would be
Because
fascinating.
she's quirky. Her and Andy together are just they'd be a lot of fun to spend time with. Though again, you might end up in some very bizarre situations.
Oh,
that you
yeah.
would never anticipate.
Maybe even scary.
Yeah.
But you would certainly have a story.
Yes. Yes. So I went with Ron Swanson. I do think he'd be, and he enjoys the outdoors. I enjoy the outdoors.
Yeah.
So that's where I started. So going with the television show first here.
Okay.
Who you got next?
Mine next. I think we both had this guy on our list at some point.
I took this one off.
Yeah. Jim Halpert from The Office.
Yeah.
Honestly, I just want to go to a baseball game or a football game and hang out with him. Like I think that'd be a great time.
Yeah.
I think going to a sporting event with Jim Halpert, even though he's a Phillies fan, that would be problematic for our relationship. But I think it'd be a fun, dry humor sort of back and forth with him about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I considered him, and in part because of the sports angle, but also because he'd be someone that would be enjoyable to have in your sort of immediate work circle who likes to keep things enjoyable and fun,
Yep.
but still is a productive member of the team.
Yep.
It's never a good situation to have the guy who's just he's a lot of fun but doesn't get his work done. And everybody else has to pick up the slack. He's that mixture of he's going to do the pranks. He's going to make fun of the really odd person in the office.
But he's also going to be a top 5 salesman for the company.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep. I like Jim.
Yeah, Jim would be a good hang.
Yeah. Who do you have next?
So I'm going to go a very different direction there. I'm going to go with one of my favorite TV shows of all time is Lost.
Mm-hmm.
Did you watch Lost?
Oh, yeah. I watched it live and then went back and watched it again during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Watched it again.
Great.
Yep.
Great. So as I thought about that, I'm like, okay, out of all the characters on that show, who would be the most enjoyable to hang out with? And it would have to be Hurley, Hugo Reyes, the big guy. Because
I'm debating this in my head.
Okay,
I don't know that I totally agree.
Okay, well you can push back after I give my statement here. So I think he's always the one bringing fun into the equation. I mean, he's the one that creates the golf course.
Now
he's the one that is all about the ping pong table on the beach. And
so you're talking. You want to hang out with him on the island. Not – do you want to hang out with him – I think it was from California. Do you want to hang out with him in California?
Well, that'd be fun too, I think. I mean, he had $50 million.
Oh, I'm going before that. I'm thinking when he's at the chicken restaurant.
Yeah, but even then, I think he's a very lovable character.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think I'm going to go with Hugo.
Okay.
Who would you have picked out of the cast of Lost?
I don't know that I would have picked anybody from the cast of Lost.
Okay.
I just don't know that I would have picked anybody.
Now, I debated putting John Locke down because I think he's a fascinating mix of kind of the ordinary guy who knows how to do everything kind of thing, but also philosophically inclined so he could have an intellectual conversation with you along the way also. So, but you wouldn't pick anybody.
I don't know that I'd pick anybody from that. I mean, everybody – Locke I think would be annoying. Hugo, I just don't know about Hugo. I don't know that I'd enjoy time with Hugo. I mean, the Dr. Jack is constantly drunk when he's not on that island.
Yeah.
Sawyer's going to rob you. You know.
Oh yeah, Sawyer's totally going to take advantage of you at some point. Yeah.
Probably Kate too. You know.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, I just don't know that there's a person that I'm like, let's be friends on that show. Saeed outside of Iraq might be fun to hang out with.
He's a guy that if he's on your side, he's useful to have. But I think Hugo would be a fun hang.
Maybe once.
Doesn't take himself too seriously. Okay. All right. Next one for you.
Okay. We talked about this one before we got on air. I chose Kramer from Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Not because I think we honestly have that much in common. Just because I would come away with so many stories. There would be so many things I'd walk away with and go like, oh, let me tell you about this time I was hanging out with this guy with some crazy hair.
Yeah.
And let me tell you what happened. And you would have some marvelous stories coming out of hanging out with Kramer. Like, remember the time we tried to take all the milk jugs to Michigan to get the extra 5 cents?
Yes. Yes, and ended up at some farm in the middle of Ohio and got chased out because Newman made the moves on the farmer's daughter. Yes,
and had golf clubs thrown at the mail truck we were trying. JFK's golf clubs. That's right. That's right.
I mean, Seinfeld is one of my favorite shows of all time, and I can get on board with you'd have some incredible stories.
But I don't know that I have that much in common with him. That's where I struggled with.
Right. You could play some
Kramer.
golf with him.
I could play golf with Kramer. Yeah, that'd be fun. He's pretty good.
Yep. Yeah. I debated, but I mean, part of what makes the show Seinfeld so interesting is the characters are obviously very engaging in different ways, but they're all terrible human beings.
Yes. Yep. And that's kind of the show concludes, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and the show concludes with them kind of, in one sense, getting what they deserve finally for being terrible human beings. They're just really funny.
Yeah.
And have but yeah. So I thought about that. All right. I'm going to go. My next one is one that I will have to explain because I'm guessing most people will have not seen this show.
TV show?
It is a TV show, yeah.
I remember it being on TV.
So I'm going to go with Ed Stevens.
Okay.
Now, this is one of my favorite TV shows of all time. I think there were only like 4 or 5 seasons. It was produced by David Letterman's production company. So it had his kind of sense of humor embedded within it.
Okay.
So Ed Stevens was played by Tom Cavanaugh. And he plays a bowling alley lawyer.
A bowling alley lawyer?
Yes.
Like a lawyer that represents bowling alleys only?
A lawyer who owns a bowling alley and has his law practice within the bowling alley.
Okay. Different streams of revenue.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, diversifying. I mean, the basic idea is the show starts with him. He's a lawyer in New York City. He's married. He misplaces a comma in a contract that costs his law firm like millions of dollars.
Wow.
They fire him. So he goes home midday, discovers his wife is having an affair with the postman, the mail carrier.
Was it Newman?
It was not Newman. And so he decides, I'm going to move back to my hometown of Stuckyville, Ohio, fictional town.
Okay.
And he has this yearbook, and he sees the picture of the girl he had the crush on, Carol Vesey, played by Julie Bowen. And so he decides he's going to move back. He goes back to Stuckyville, and he makes it his goal to win the girl. Mm-hmm. She's not married. She's dating this guy, but it's not going anywhere. And so it's a weird mixture of it's a 1-hour show, but it has elements of like a sitcom in it, but it's a drama. So it's this weird it's almost this mixed genre of show. And he is a riot. He and his buddy Mike, who's a doctor in town, have this shtick going where they do a $10 bet. And so they'll say like, all right, Mike, $10 if you go up to that random person and cluck like a chicken. And you have to do it. And so these little $10 bets are all throughout the show. Very funny. And yet there's a very sweet element to the show as well. It's probably my wife and I's favorite television series.
Is it on anything? Is it on Hulu, Netflix?
Well, here's the disappointing thing. From what I understand, 2 different production companies own the rights to it. And they can't agree on distributing it on a streaming service. So it's not showing up. It's not available. Actually, if you go onto YouTube, you can find the episodes. The quality isn't the greatest.
Yeah.
But so yeah, from what I understand, it's not going to show up on Peacock or anything like that because
that's so sad.
It's very sad. Yeah. I think it's one of those shows that would be low key popular with a second run.
Yeah.
So Ed Stevens it is. Who do you got next?
So I have Hopper. This is one I kind of came up with at the last minute.
Okay.
Have you seen this is from the TV show?
I have not seen Stranger Things.
Okay, so he is the
I know the basic premise, I think.
he is the police officer from Stranger Things, and he is just sort of this. I'd want to hang out with him in Indiana. Let me be clear, because there's one season he's almost entirely in Russia, but he is just he's kind of was the cool guy in high school. Went to Vietnam, came back, and is now the town sheriff, and has just sort of continued his cool guy sort of stuff. But he's also got like a heart of gold in there as well.
Yeah,
really, really excellent character, and I think he'd be fun to hang out with in the fictional town that he's from in Indiana.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
All right, my next one might be a little bit more off the radar as well. I'm going to go with Ove.
I've heard you talk about. I've never read this
from
book.
this book by Frederick. I don't know if it's Backman or Bachman. He's a Swedish author. It's been translated into English. The book is called A Man Called Ove.
Mm-hmm.
It's this story of this guy, Ove, whose wife passes away. They're older. His wife passes away, and he's just completely lost. Like he just doesn't even really know how to function anymore. And he's this kind of curmudgeonly, but kind of the classic curmudgeon who comes across as a little gruff, but there's a heart of gold beneath that. And so he decides that he's going to end his life because he just can't take living without his wife anymore.
Yeah.
And every time he goes to commit suicide, he gets interrupted by a neighbor who needs his help. And he feels this moral obligation to help these neighbors out. And they're different ones, even though he's deeply annoyed by them. And so he ends up becoming very dear to these neighbors. And so it's just this very sweet story of a curmudgeon who's got the heart of gold. And I'm drawn to those sort of curmudgeonly characters because I have some of my own curmudgeonly tendencies in my life. So I feel a resonance with them of that.
Now, would you be upset if he also found you annoying?
I think I'd find it endearing.
Okay.
And he probably would, because part of his shtick is he's annoyed that these people don't know how to do basic things in life. Like he's an older guy, and so his neighbors are younger. Yeah. And so he's doing stuff around the house. He's like, what self-respecting man doesn't know how to fix this?
Yeah.
I'm the one who needs the help by the curmudgeonly neighbor who knows how to fix things. So anyway, it's A Man Called Ove. Who else you got? You got one more.
So, yeah, my final one. Again, I think I'd come out of this relationship with some good stories. I don't know that we have that much in common.
Yeah.
Apollo Creed.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I just think he'd be a fascinating person to spend a couple days with.
Yeah.
And to just see, goodness, what is his life like? And what does he do day to day when he's not in front of a microphone or camera or in the ring?
Yeah.
I think he would be a fascinating person. And then to hang out with him and Rocky on the beach and run with them, I think would be enjoyable.
Yeah.
I think Apollo Creed would be a fascinating hang.
I like that. That's a little off the radar. That's good. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
And then your final.
Yeah. So I enjoy Lord of the Rings and very much both. I mean, I read that as a kid, and then, of course, the movies. So as I thought about, I debated picking some of the hobbits. So Merry and Pippin are kind of the like the fun-loving.
Yeah. I agree. I thought about Merry and Pippin. I did not think about Sam and Frodo at all.
No.
Their lives just seem so hard.
And I debated about Aragorn because he's long life, fascinating.
You would see a lot. Yeah.
Yes, but I ultimately settled on Gandalf.
Mm-hmm.
He's that older, wiser, grizzled, seen everything kind of guy. So it's not like you think we're going to have this side-splitting laughter kind of hang session with Gandalf. But the sort of life wisdom that you would get and just input that you might get from him, I think would be enjoyable. So,
okay, yeah, I thought about Gandalf as well. I considered it. But then thought I might lose my life at some point. People around him
people around him are certainly
to
in
die.
danger. Yeah. Okay. Well, that was something different.
Yeah. Yeah. You ready for Today in Sports History?
Let's do it.
All right. So when this episode drops, it feels so far away.
October 18th.
The 18th of October.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Let's see what names are in there. 1968 American long jumper Bob Beamon sets the incredible world record of 8.9 meters. I'm sorry, I'm a little distracted. There is a camera crew outside. I know you can't see this, but there is a camera crew outside the podcast studio door right now.
Okay.
A big old camera. Anyway. And they were like looking in here. I'm like,
yeah. I mean, that's my entourage probably.
yeah, that's probably, yes. Crossway sent them over.
Yeah.
Bob Beamon. Incredible world record, 8.9 meters, 29
feet.
29 feet, 2.5 inches in high altitude of Mexico City Olympics, long jump, improvement over previous world record by 22 inches.
Yeah. That's remarkable.
That's almost that's
almost 2 feet.
Almost 2 feet.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Has that been broken since? I assume it has.
Maybe. I know it stood for a very long time.
Bob Beamon.
Sounds
like he owns a hardware store, doesn't it?
Or a car dealership.
Come
on down to Bob Beamon Ford.
Yeah. All right. So that was 68. Oh, also 1968, U.S. Olympic Committee suspends Tommy Smith and John Carlos for giving the Black Power salute to protest racism and injustice against the African Americans during the Olympic medal ceremony. Same Olympics.
Pretty famous historical event. Yeah.
Pretty famous photo. Yeah.
Yep.
1974, Chicago Bulls Nate Thurmond. Am I saying that right?
I think so.
Okay. Becomes the first in the NBA to compete a quadruple double with 22 points, 14 rebounds, 13 assists, and then I think the most impressive one, 12 blocks.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's a lot of blocks.
It is. It's a little surprising to me that Wilt Chamberlain didn't do that.
Well, I don't think Wilt Chamberlain didn't pass.
Okay, but even just accidentally, you'd think.
Yeah, he'd stumble into 10.
Yeah, he'd stumble into 10 assists. Or even Oscar Robertson.
Yeah.
Mr. Triple-Double himself. It's a little surprising that maybe he didn't throw one of those up there. I guess he's probably not going to get the blocks.
Yeah, and I mean that probably held Russell Westbrook back from getting it right, the blocks.
Probably.
1978, Baseball World Series. Reggie Jackson hits 3 consecutive home runs, tying Babe Ruth's World Series record. The Yankees beat the Dodgers 8-4 to clinch, 4-2 series to win. MVP, Yankees outfielder Reggie Jackson.
Yeah, that's kind of an iconic moment in baseball history.
Oh, yeah.
If I remember correctly, I think that might have even been on 3 consecutive pitches. Like I think they might have been like 3 first pitch home runs.
Huh.
I could be wrong.
Guy must have been tipping his pitches.
I guess. That's why they called Reggie Jackson Mr. October.
Mr. October, yep.
All right, who you got out of this list, John?
Part of me just – I think the most
for me it's down to 2.
Reggie Jackson's very impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Nate Thurmond is very impressive, although I've never heard of him. But Bob Beamon might take the cake for me.
Okay. I'm between Bob Beamon and Nate Thurmond.
Let's go Bob Beamon.
Yeah. Okay.
Just because I like the name Bob Beamon.
Bob Beamon. Maybe a BMW dealership. Bob Beamon BMW.
Bob Beamon's Beamers.
Yes. All right, Bob Beamon it is. That's just fun to say.
Yeah.
All right, one thing you liked.
Okay, so I'm going to mention the novel I've been reading, A Gentleman in Moscow, and I've kind of given the plot to it a bit already in our breakdown.
How did you come across this?
So I listened to a podcast by the president of a liberal arts college. Econ Talk is the name of it. President of a liberal arts college in Israel. And he invites people on to talk all the time. He invited the author on to discuss his process, this new book that came out. And the author's fascinating. He was in finance for like 25 years, but always loved
What nationality is this author?
English.
Okay.
He's American. He's American.
Okay.
He's American. Yeah.
Because I love me a good Russian novel.
No, he's not Russian. So
Okay.
he was in Manhattan, I think, doing finance.
Okay.
And moved, but always did like these fictional writing seminars and would take vacation to go to and he would go to these things, wow the professor, and they're like, you need to pursue this full time. And so he did it like 45. And he writes, he's had 2 or 3 novels come out now, and they're just he's just such a good writer. I'm really enjoying it. A Gentleman in Moscow.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out, especially given my interest in Russia. In fact, when I was doing the research for the fictional characters, I did consider if there were any I like Dostoevsky's novels, and tried to see if there were any – tried to think back if there were any characters in there. But there's always just such a grimness to the Russian novels.
Oh, yeah.
But this one being written by an American probably doesn't have that. Okay. So by the way, your recommendation last week, Crooked City, I'm like 4 or 5 episodes in. It's great.
Yeah.
Love it.
That's Nathan the boss in Indiana.
Okay. Yeah, it's really good. But my one thing I liked this week I'm going with is and I'm sort of saying this, we're recording in advance of this, but I'm assuming this is going to –
You're anticipating
I'm
enjoying
anticipating, yes. We have one of our students getting married this weekend.
Ah.
And
Are you doing the ceremony or anything?
I am not – I'm reading scripture in the
Okay.
ceremony. My son is one of the groomsmen.
Okay.
He's got 12 groomsmen.
Yeah.
So to
I've
which
seen-
I joked with him,
I've
do
seen
you
that.
think you're Jesus? Like,
Yeah. I've seen that before.
Well, do you think – I feel like this is a trend. Larger and larger numbers of groomsmen and bridesmaids in weddings. Like when I got married, like we had 6, and that was like, whoa, that's huge. Mm-hmm. Now that's like nothing. You know, some of these weddings you go to and you think, am I even friends with him? Like,
Yeah.
I didn't make the cut for 12. Like,
Well, I will not name names, but I've known some students at Grace to get married and feel the pressure to get like up to 12.
yeah.
And they will ask people, and they'll be like, "I'm not even sure I have your name in my phone." you know that's sort of the
Yeah.
level of
Now
friendship.
that's not the case with this guy. He is very well known on campus.
Sure.
Has a lot of friends. Has friends from back home. That's part of the challenge of the getting married right out of college is if you've still got high school buddies and now you've got college buddies, narrowing that down can be a bit
Oh
tricky.
yeah, can be real hard.
Which that was one advantage of you getting married a little bit later in life.
And in the middle of COVID,
In the middle of you had 0.
0. The
Attendance.
plan was to have, I think, 1.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway. All right. We need to wrap this up. You've got an important meeting coming up shortly here, and I have to go to the rehearsal for that wedding.
Oh yes.
Yes. So we have talked sports, though a little bit more briefly. We have talked fictional characters we would like to hang out with. We've talked about Bob Beamon.
Bob Beamon.
Bob Beamon's Beamers.
Bob Beamon's Buicks. I don't know.
And we have talked about the novel that you're reading that you're really enjoying. And we've talked
so
about the wedding festivities of one of our students. So I think by definition, we have covered our various and sundry topics. And so until next time, the Lord bless y'all real good.
Later.